Good afternoon, everyone. This is my first time being here, and when Mrs. Mushala called me to talk about violence against women by women, it gave me a challenging thought. That when I begin to imagine violence against women by women, I said, but violence is usually perpetrated by men against women. So, what is this violence against women by women is? So I begin to look at even coming up, looking at the definition, one of the definitions that the United World Health Organization wrote about the definition of violence against women. It says, violence against women is any act of gender-based violence that results in or is likely to result in physical, sexual, or mental harm or suffering to women, including threats of such acts, coercion, or arbitrary deprivation of liberty, whether occurring in public or in private. So when I look at that definition, I look at how a woman can also perpetrate violence against another woman. And just like our sister Aunt has just said, that training begins at the home, where a mother is supposed to train and educate the children. But coming out from a background in Africa, I realize and see that our mothers were less educated, but they have one gift that God gave them, the gift of humility, submitting themselves to their husband. So they lack that ability sometimes to educate, to empower their own children. They always see that the men are always at the top, and the girls are less privileged. Just like in my own family, one of my uncles thought that training a girl is a waste of time, that a girl is not supposed to go to school. And when I look at it, and there are so many practices and so many cultures that they practice, which are really, that has really affected the upbringing of young girls or women in our society today. One of the things, the violence that I saw that was being perpetrated by a woman against a woman, is this culture of genital mutilation. It has affected a lot of girls, a lot of women growing up. It has not only affected them mentally, psychologically, physically, but it has affected even their spiritual upbringing, that they don't even know who they are any longer. And this genital mutilation, you are forced, you are not even allowed, but you are forced. And when you look at the environment when these things are being done, they are unhygienic. The mother has to tell the daughter, oh, you have to do it. If you don't do it, you are not going to be recognized as a woman in the society. And some of these things, when they are done, what does it do to our young girls? What does it do to the women when they grow up? Some are infected during the process of the mutilation. Some can no longer bear children, and this affects them. Because some think that they are worthless, they don't mean anything. They allow themselves to be abused also by men. But when you begin to look at the other part, even growing up, a mother will want to abuse her own daughter. How? Growing up, like in some parts in Cameroon, when you are growing up like a teenager and your breast starts shooting out, the mother will say, hey, I don't want men to go after you. I don't want men to think that you are already ready for marriage. And what do? They use iron to press the breast. This is a very violent act. And why? Because they didn't know any better. Some were not educated. They think that when your breast is coming out, men will start going after you, or you begin to become attractive to men. Why? They had that mentality behind them that, oh no, I don't want my daughter to develop breast. I want my daughter to grow up. If I am struggling in the farm to, to get money to educate her, I want her to pursue her education. But these are some of the things that have affected some of us Africans. Not only that, when those that come from Africa or that have a little education, what do? They go get the young girls from the village, and they bring them, tell them all sorts of lies, promising them heaven and earth, that when they bring them overseas, they are going to have better life. What do? They come and enslave them and send them out for prostitution. And that, I say, is violence being perpetrated against women. Violence against women perpetrated by women. And it is going on in our society today. And it has cost a lot of us, even in our society. Many people, you go to majority of the hospitals today, when patients walk in, they walk out, especially women. They have medication, they are put on medication for depression. They are being depressed. Some because they are sold out for prostitution by another fellow woman, they end up having HIV. And this has a lot of cost effect in our society and even their health. So how can we educate our women? How can we go back to the village and tell those mothers, tell those sisters that are growing up, that when you see your daughter growing up, when the breast is coming out, you don't need to put an iron on it. That culture of genital mutilation needs to stop. It is still being practiced today in part of Cameroon, in part of Nigeria, and some other African countries. How are we going to put a stop to it? By educating them. Educating, coming together like this as we are here together, acquiring the knowledge and going back to educate them. And that they shouldn't even listen to all those other people who come and tell them, promising them heaven and earth, taking their children. You know, this time, voluntarily, they give out their children to be sold out in slavery. And we see so many things, so many of our girls out there working as housemaid, don't even have money to go out to buy stuff for themselves. They are being deprived of all the basic necessity in life. They are house girls, sometimes housewives, sometimes they force them into marriage, early marriage. And this, they feel worthless. But thank God that there is a reawakening, that which God created us to be right from the beginning of Genesis, that we are also equal to men. Not only equal to men, we are also equal to others. And I see that we have to take responsibility. It's high time we start holding ourselves accountable and responsible in order to deal with these issues in our society. Thank you.